thank you for bearing with us, the people who are hanging out in the stage and this little
Yes,
hiccup.
thank you.
I hope that what we have to share is worth it.
Yay!
Woo!
Okay,
Finally. Can everyone hear us? No. Yes.
Should we start over with introductions, or should we wait a couple minutes? I'm
Okay,
over here,
I
but I don't think
did
I
the
can.
raid thing, and now it's like just sitting there and not doing anything.
Oh my God, Twitch. I hate you.
Yay!
Great. Yay. Amazing. Well, that happened with ADD.
It's basically like that. If you are
Constantly.
neurotypical, this is what happens to someone with ADHD.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is a perfect metaphor, in fact.
Yes, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Thinking you got everything ready to go, and then something's like, nah.
Yes. A squirrel.
Yeah.
A squirrel? What?
Yeah.
What? Yes. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Squirrel.
Absolutely. I think the last time they could hear my intro, so I guess we can skip that. And I don't know if I think that Cherry was the first one to.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Sherry. I have ADHD. Let's do this.
Yes. Enough of intro. We have.
My name's Jasmin, or 101 Mystic. I also have ADHD. I got diagnosed at 7, but I've also done the very expensive research testing that they do to try and pinpoint more specific issues with it.
My name is EliKwake. I also have ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was 7, and I might also have some autism stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Same here.
Quick intros.
Yes, absolutely. I wanna start to with something really basic about what is ADD or ADHD or what is the difference. Basically, one ADHD have also hyperactivity, so it's a lot of people that can stay still, like they need to move a lot. Cherry is one of our queens with ADHD. She's like to, do this and do that, and sometimes
I'm almost always wiggling, so
Yes,
you're
exactly.
gonna notice that.
Yeah, just get used to this chair thing that I'm doing, because it's gonna be there
like
all
this,
day.
like this. ADD is without hyperactivity, so I always like to say that my neurons have hyperactivity, not me. So that's like kind of the difference, and we want to start with a warning. If you feel that you get distracted really fast, that you can focus very well, and you are not a white cis man, ask for a specialist, psychiatrist or a neurologist that is specialized in they call female neurodiversity, but it's actually non-white men neurodiversity. Is usually non-white cis men that have problems. We are under-diagnosed. In some places, it's not about women, but it's all related to that's a women issue.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's like a character, your characteristic, because you are a female or like a female.
Yeah.
So
Well,
The
one of the
Victorian
issues,
era really messes up because it's
Oh,
still all
yeah.
about that hysteria.
Oh,
well, one of the
yeah.
issues in science is basically until the 1970s, all tests were done on men between
Yeah.
the weight of like 140 pounds and 165 pounds and white English dudes or American. And that's it. So if you are not in that category, including in culture, because there's a lot of things that are considered disruptive in Western culture that aren't disruptive in other cultures, it gets a little bit sticky on how to interact with it. I do have a friend, he's Macedonian, and he's only getting diagnosed now because his culture is they're hand talky. Like it is a very like verbose language, and nobody picked up on it, even though he is very neurodiverse, because a lot of people either made him foreign or they're just like, well, he's a very eccentric Macedonian person within his own culture. And so it has been an issue for him where he's just starting to get diagnosed, 27. So it's like lots of different people because we have this specific set of routine that this is what it needs to be, even though it is a neurological disorder. So it's not a mental illness, where
No.
mental illness is something that goes wrong with your brain after it was built. Neurological, it's built while you're being developed in the womb. And that's just the way it is. And like you learn ways to handle it, but it's never going to stop being a problem. You get tools, you don't get cures.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the things that's true, at least as far as men versus women, is women tend to lean more towards the side of. Okay, so I'm up on the more modern research on ADHD and ADD. ADD and ADHD have been combined into just ADHD, but there's three types. There's inattentive, which is more common in AFABs. There's hyperactive, which is what used to be known as ADHD, which is more common in AMABs. And then there's the combined type. I am the combined type, but I presented when I was younger as the hyperactive type, which is not very common in someone assigned female at birth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. My hyperactivity is my chattiness. Like my friends call them couch lectures because if you're with me, I will start talking and I will not stop until like someone's like, I literally need to go. Like it's been 2 hours, I have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it does show up a little bit different. Like it's not always the picturesque hyperactivity, class clown boy. Mine's is the continuous chatterness that doesn't stop. Some people it's a little bit different. And like
Yeah.
if you're in this group, your internal worlds are extremely complex, and that's why you're probably writing because you like, this is great. I should do this for money, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there.
So, what can you tell me about your biggest struggles with ADD, even if you were diagnosed at the time or not? Especially with writing, that is our main thing today.
For me, I came from an industry or a profession where I got to burn off the energy that I had. Like as a chef, like you go fast and you do these things, and then like you have to have like basically what it is you arrange in front of yourself a mise en place, and that is how like that's how you can you build your recipes. That's how you get things pushed out in the speeds that you're supposed to push food out. So in that situation, I'm solid, baby, because it's just moving. I can burn off energy. I can like go. It's great. But when you're writing, you have to be busy typing. You're not going to be like, you have to sit down and engage with all of this up here. And all of this up here is full of mines.
Yeah.
They're just dragons everywhere. So
Yeah.
I some of the techniques that I've started using is, if people are watching me, I can't move from the spot. I have to write.
Yeah.
That's why the Twitch thing comes in, is there is no escaping this. Focus now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that social external pressure is great for so many different reasons.
Oh yeah.
One of my issues is, so one of the big problems with ADHD is we get our highest dopamine hit just before you're done. Not after you're done like a normal person, but just before you're done. So I finish it and then I get depressed and then I feel like
Yeah.
I've done nothing. And then I start going into this, like, I have to do more. And like, I will just never recognize what I've done. So everybody else is like, you do so much stuff. And I'm like, I haven't done anything. Like,
But this
what are
isn't
you
my
talking
regular
about?
output.
Yeah, like,
This
this
isn't
is
Yeah.
what
what I
I
do. Like, what are you
want.
talking about? Like, I don't have like 20 books behind me to be like, look at my things. I'm like, sure, I've written a few books that haven't gotten published yet, but that doesn't count. And they're like,
Yeah,
what?
it does. It does.
It does, as long as it's not in my brain. So like, that's been a real huge issue with me. And like, I can talk about what has helped me with that, but I don't know if that's where we're at right now, and I can derail us ever.
Yeah.
Eli.
Yes. So I had kind of a weird journey with ADHD because I was diagnosed when I was 7. I was put on Ritalin until I was 11, which is when I developed a seizure disorder. So one of
Oh
my biggest,
no,
oh yeah, Riddle,
nope,
ADHD and seizures
nope.
do not cross. Um, so I had to go off of my meds when I was 11, which, let me tell you, puberty and middle school and seizures and all of a sudden all of my ADHD symptoms coming out at once, that was the biggest struggle of my life. I got into fights. It was very ugly for a long time. It got better in high school because I learned the coping mechanisms. But one of
That's
the
actually
things,
another, sorry to derail.
yeah,
That's actually another thing that happens with us is
mhm.
we get feisty.
Oh yeah, that was one of the reasons I got put on Ritalin in the first place. Is I was picking fights with my 4-year older brother and beating him up. That's why I got diagnosed so young.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was supposed to be Olympic champion. I realized I don't look it for fencing because I was really good at it and very mean. And yeah, like I now tend to do HEMA when I can do sword fighting, obviously not in a pandemic. But I was like, I needed to burn off energy. I find normal sports incredibly boring.
Yeah.
But like, you put me in a situation where I'm in charge, and also I'm stabbing someone apparently, and I'm for it. And like, I'm very nice. I'm usually very scared of hurting people. But if you put a sword in my hand, I'm like, nope, I don't care. I'm also 5'3", so like, it's people are like, that's not scary. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna wreck you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's so many precautions in fencing. I've done it too.
Yeah.
I was never supposed to be Olympic level, but
Yeah, I think in my case was to before I was diagnosed, like school, college, and everything. That I'm. This is going to sound really bad, but I'm like a smart person. Like my grades was good, even
I'm
I
actually
didn't.
kind of a genius, said
I'm
Andrea.
actually like I'm like IQ is like so sorry for that, but so I have good grades anyway.
Yeah.
Even I
yeah.
never study anything, and was like that feeling that maybe I could do it better if I actually study, but I cannot sit down to study. Like I'm
Yeah.
that's weird. And one of the things that now I make sense of is my mom came from a family that is really silence. Like if you are going, because they are musicians, like classical musicians. So if someone is studying anything, you are in silence. Like
Yeah.
you can hear the piano, the cello there, or maybe the scales, or nothing at all because someone is studying. And for me, studying in silence is like just room for thoughts and squirrels going everywhere.
So
Yeah, I have to
And
my
study the music too.
my
yes,
my
I
thing
do
that
think.
I found out actually works for me is a metronome. Having the
Mm.
metronome ticking, that gives me focus. Like sometimes music, I'm like, oh, sparkles. But
Yeah.
like with the metronome, because it is just tick, 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 at a tempo, it's just counting the tempo down. That is like, okay, I got this. This is something that I can drown out, but I can keep myself engaged with.
See,
When
I'm
I
going
was
nuts with the
young,
clock in this
I'm
room,
sorry.
so it's okay.
When I was
Sorry.
young, I was in school. For me, what I need to study was I'm Chilean. I'm in Chile now, so my first language is Spanish. So I need to have a movie in Spanish that I already see. Like that's why I see like I don't know Nothing Hill 435 times because you need to be in the background, and I have to have my book and something to write in, and sometimes two things to write in because one is for studying and the other thing is for just
Your
move the
brain.
pencil around and going.
Yeah.
And my
For
mind
me,
came to my room. It was like, how you can study this way? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
what?
one of the things
Why?
that I have
How?
to do is I'm like, I have two problems. Either it's super interesting and I want to pay attention to it, whether it's music or a documentary or something else, or I have like what I call repulse boredom, where it's boring me so bad I can't not pay attention to it. So like I have to find something else, and like trying to find the middle ground of it's boring enough but not interesting for like the background noise, because otherwise I hear everything and I'm
Yes.
paying attention to something and it's like I can't get into the moment, and it's so frustrating sometimes where I'm just like I just need something boring but not that boring. Also not
Have
that
you
boring.
tried putting something in the background in a language you don't know?
That's an idea.
I have done it before. The problem is I start getting too interested in what that language is.
You
Mm.
start
it's like
studying the language.
Yeah.
yeah, just like that's really interesting how they said that, and then it's like I get like so I do tend to do a lot of ambient noises lately, where it's like soundscapes, where it's like 16th century tavern or something weird like that. Like I used to write a lot in
Got it.
coffee
Yeah.
shops, but that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I used to work in coffee shops too, only I would have loud music playing at the same time while I was in the coffee shop
I
because the coffee
cannot.
shop was distracting me.
I cannot do that. I cannot be in a restaurant environment. My brain goes nuts. It's like, oh,
Even it's
these people aren't doing this properly. I have
yeah.
to go fix
Yes.
it.
You go into the I'm a chef, I'm gonna do this right because
Like
that's why you're
if I can't, it freaks me out. My skin crawls. It's bad.
so
I get it
Yeah.
really bad.
I'm going to I'm going to try to follow our
All
Our
right.
very basic
notes.
Try
outline.
Yes, yes,
being the ADHD people. Yes, this is
yes. We have a lot of notes
We're
of
also
this.
talking about writing. I forgot. Sorry.
No, but I wanted to start talking about the tips and tricks that we can give to others ADDs or possible ADDs. Maybe you are not diagnosed, you think that you have it or no. And what I want to start with is so as you can hear, and you are going to hear more, everyone have their own way to do things, to
Yes.
do productivity. You hear this, you can listen to this one. I'm a huge fan now of the streams with, but I'm really picky. I like streams with noise, not with everyone shut up because I can focus that.
I
So my
have my
first,
clickies because of this.
yes, I have my first advice or tip or what do you want to call it is know what is your process,
Yeah.
your tip and trick, your own, respect them. Like if you take half an hour and sit down to write, you know that that's your thing. Don't feel guilty for that. Don't feel like bad because you just can have that much time working, but also don't get caught on that like almost OCD things. When I'm
Yeah.
stressed, I was like, if I don't have the proper post-it there and the thing, the pencil, and that's when your like OCD is not that actually OCD, but cut you and keep you for working. So learn what is your process, your ritual to work, but not let them to take over. Like your ritual doesn't it's not the boss. You are the boss of the ritual. So that can be my first advice. So, Cherry, what is your tips and tricks for this?
Find people who also have ADHD and then pester them. What do you do? But what do you do though? Like, to help me. I don't know what to do. Like that is so that is step one, because yeah, clearly some people already have been through this with you. Another thing that I would say is, if your mind wanders, and you have two different projects that you're working on, it's fine. Work on those two different projects. Your brain is amazing. It can handle that. You don't have to do it like all of these already established authors. Like, you don't have to you don't have to write like they do. You always see these little experiments, such as somebody writing like somebody for a week. I
Oh.
can't do that.
No.
I can
no.
only write like Sherry. And I've accepted that.
I think everybody is going to have something you might choose from, but like no one's going to have the magic wand that this is how you finish your book. Now go forth and finish your book. Like, I have ADHD and I have really established regimes around it because I recognize my own brain and I work with it. But most people go, how do you do this? It's crazy. And I'm like, it just works for me.
How dare you say crazy? I am a
it's like, I'm like,
genius.
that's for me. Hair flip. I'd flip my hair, but it's really short.
I'd flip my hair, but I don't have any.
Just do
flip your
this.
whole head.
It's, everybody knows what that means.
One of the things I think is really, really important with people with ADHD is most people with ADHD need a transitional period. So if you come home from work and sit down at your computer, you are not going to immediately start writing. There are people in this world who can. You are not one of them.
No.
We need transition. So if you're like, I'm going to write a half an hour when I get home, but you need a half an hour to transition, you're not going to be writing in that half hour. It's fine. Just change when you're doing it. Come home, do dishes, whatever you need to do to switch gears to be writing. And if that means you need to book an hour to do a half an hour of writing, that is legitimate too. A lot of people will sit there and be like, well, if you're not writing the whole time, what are you doing? And like, I am writing, just not with my fingers. Like, it's writing is also mental. Like, we have to do it in our head. So do it in your head. The next thing I would suggest is keep track of what you are doing when you have done it, because you will trick yourself into being like, I haven't done anything. But if like I keep a did-do list, not a to-do list, a did-do list. So I'm just gonna pull this out. So I have these little like do things. This is for a short story. And what I do is I have a journal in it that I write down and put stickers in, because I love stickers, what I'm thinking and what I did, because otherwise I don't know what I did. So like, yeah, sure, it's a 12-page story. I've written it 22 times. So like, yeah, it's the same story. I haven't moved further from it because I've been fixing it. But my brain doesn't recognize that. It goes, you've been working for 6 months on one story. What is wrong with you? I'm like, I've rewritten it 22 times to make it perfect. And yes, it's in submissions now.
Also, Natalie Goldberg says you're allowed to spend 7 months on a short story. So whoever said that to you
was lying.
Suck it.
Yeah. And it's like, especially when you start getting into things like novels that take an incredible amount of time, track what you are doing, even if it's 100 words. Like, they're like, I can't, my brain's just not here. You know, kids are screaming in the background, the dog's growing up, you know, whatever is going on. That 100 words is more than zero.
Yeah.
You know, it might take you forever to write that chapter in your own head, but it's still motion. And tracking it will also show you that, yes, you are working on it. Maybe you're not sitting down and plugging out 10,000 words a day, which frankly sounds really bad for your health. But it's, you know, it's something that you need to remind yourself of, that you are being human. That means that you can only do so much. And like, yeah, if you have
that is definitely something that I have to start doing. I haven't actually tracked anything that I've done, anything that I finished. I just go, oh, fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, and you're absolutely correct. You do fall into the mind trap where you're like, I didn't get anything done today, feel really bad about it, and you start to forget about the rituals. You start to forget about the work that it takes to just sit down at your desk, and all you see is the fact that you failed, even though
Yeah.
you didn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and it's
totally
like,
understand
yeah,
that.
I'm still working on this novel, but it's like, okay, well, how many drafts have you done? How many words have you done? How
Yeah.
often are you researching it? Because researching is working on it, even if there's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's not writing. It's like anything that you are doing is working towards that end goal, and it matters. Like,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a lot of people who have this kind of like nebulous idea that you need to have your muse that just comes out of your finger and you shit gold.
If you're
And
lucky.
if you're lucky, but it's like, I do think that a lot of people need to put work in, and I think there's a lot of authors, and specifically certain white male authors, who aggrandize themselves, and they won't talk about like the legitimate struggles and processes, where they're just like, oh yes, I wrote a perfect first draft for the first time, aren't I the greatest, you will never be like me. And it's like, well, that's great for you. I don't believe you anymore, because I've met enough of those authors at this point where I'm like, I just think you're a horseshit. Like, you're just way too full of yourself and convinced that anybody else is doing it wrong, which is like, do it your own thing. If you don't want to do it that way, do it a different way.
It comes with the territory of
Yeah,
being
authors
who they are.
slightly.
So
Yeah.
I've written 3
Authors-
novels. They were all very different, first of all.
Yeah.
The first one was an accident. I squirreled off of a different project onto the project that turned into a novel. This is my big tip for people with ADHD: is allow yourself room to squirrel, because you never know where it's going to go. You could write a novel by accident.
Oh yeah, I wrote. It was supposed to be a short story, and it turned into a 76,000 page novel, 76,000 word novel that was just supposed to be a short story. And I was just like, I'm just going to write this because I wanted to do something for Christmas.
This was supposed to be 20,000 words. It was not.
So how did you get yourself to sit down and write, Eli?
I was doing NaNoWriMo at the time, which NaNoWriMo is a big helper for me. But the way that I got myself to write was, I'm a social writer, as it turns out. So I have to write around other people. Twitch will work, but when I was doing NaNoWriMo that particular year, I was doing it in coffee shops. I was doing it in libraries. You okay?
Don't burn yourself.
Oh.
Please continue.
I was doing it in coffee shops and libraries and restaurants and just anywhere. I live in Los Angeles usually. So anywhere in Los Angeles that there was people writing, I would go there. I would sit down. I would write for however long we were writing.
If you hit a bench, someone's going to be writing in Los Angeles.
That's true.
Everyone
That's true.
writes in LA. God, I miss LA.
That should be a song. It really should. Like, nobody walks in LA, but everybody writes in LA.
Yeah. I know for me that, like, first of all, I'm currently living in a town I hate because a whole bunch of things went wrong at once. So I ended up living with my aunt again. And I was just like, I thought I left here for good. And yet I'm back here. And then the pandemic hit. So
yeah.
like,
now
really
you're
just,
stuck here.
Now you're
I'm just stuck here.
There.
So when I'm desperately not wanting to be where I am, it's really be like, I'm going to go write because that is not in Canmore. But the other thing is I do have, I guess, rituals where it's like I have multiple storybooks that I'm working on, and I pick that up and I put it down and I see where I was at last point, and then I go make myself a cup of tea, and then I sit down and then I try and write. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth. I try and get a certain amount of words done per day, depending on like what I'm doing in that day. But sometimes it's like I can write 3,000 words in a day, and other times I'm very lucky to get 100. I try and not judge myself badly for those 100-word days, because I worked just as hard, probably harder, for each one of those 100 words versus the 3,000 that just kind of flowed from me naturally.
I have to have like 4 journals.
I have so many journals.
Yes.
So this is my writing journal, this is where I put down all my ideas for either the novels I'm working on, the novels I want to be working on, or just like good ideas. And then I have all of my working notebooks that like they're all here, and like there's a bunch of them because I'm nothing but overly organized in a disorganized context.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
understand. Okay, so the last novel that I started, which I have not finished because ADHD,
Yeah.
the last novel that I started, I was going to write every single different character in a different color ink pen.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time on that the first 2 weeks of National Novel Writing Month last year, I wrote barely anything. I was behind for the first time in
Ever?
a while, a very long time. I was behind for the first time in a very long time. And then I switched to computer because it was driving me insane. And over the course of one weekend, I caught up.
Whoa, dang,
Yeah.
Wow.
son.
And
Of
it's like
course.
I use things like this where it's like I'm just detailing out worlds, and like this is for the short
Wow.
story where I just write it out, and it's like people are like, "That's a lot of work." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's just the way my brain works."
You
And
sell
like
a
once this is down, yeah, it's like once this is down, I know what I'm doing, and I can just write. But
I have a question. This is something that I've found from other friends of mine who have ADHD and want to write, but they have a really, really, really hard time actually sitting down to write. Like when I don't know exactly what it is that they're going through, but they will just say, yeah, I would have written, but like I can't because my ADHD is like way too much. So like what are some of your coping mechanisms to like get past that giant struggle of like the boulder that is ADHD? Andrea?
So mine and this is I write a warning here. Like ask your doctor first. I'm a yes, like oh I do what she did and I get sick. No, ask your doctor first. I'm using Adhd. That is the same thing that Ritalin. And I changed the time for the meds for the time that I know that I need it most, and usually is writing. So you can
Right.
adjust them, but please ask your doctor first.
We are not
Because
doctors. Do not
yes,
come to
we
us
are
for
not
medical advice.
doctors. Not all meds works
Mm.
the same, and not doesn't work the same in each individual. So you are messing with your brain. So don't listen to me at
Yeah.
all. And if you are taking a medicine and you say, "Oh, that's a great idea," first you go and you ask your doctor. Like
Yes.
warning.
However, for
However,
Andrea,
yes,
However,
I
for
adjust
Andrea.
my medicine to the most critical day, time of the day. Um,
when is that for you?
well, so I'm not a full-time writer.
Mhm.
I work, I teach, I have
Mhm.
2 kids. I kind of try to
Even your
maintain
life has
a
ADHD.
house. Yeah, so I usually write at night
Mhm.
or on
I'm like that
weekends.
too.
So I adjust for the night the most big doses.
Yeah.
So I can concentrate. But it's true when transitioning from one fun activity to
Mhm.
writing,
Mhm.
it's really hard. We were talking yesterday on Discord with Terry that I was finishing this event that is really fun. It's a hackathon,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh
projects
yeah.
and the kids amazing and whatever. And I want to start writing, and it was like, but it still was the contest, and it went on YouTube, and it was like, sometimes you said no, today I can't. Like no,
Mhm.
so I start to doing some prep
Yes,
on my
yes, yes.
notebooks. So I start like doing like
Yeah.
little
Yay!
things for NaNoWriMo. This is the first time that I'm going to do it like with a huge amount of words.
July
I
camp, July
July
Camp
Camp
Nano.
Nano.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I did the last one, but I knew about that on the 25th of April.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I write like 5k words. Um,
I can do that on a good day.
yeah,
yeah, but but
I think
home
it's
kids,
really
whatever.
important to say that like ADHD meds are incredibly vilified. Some people need them. They
Yeah.
are.
Some people need them.
I'm on them. I think they're great. I have a long-lasting one, so mine lasts for 12 hours. So I take them in the
Nice.
morning. Like part of how I got myself out of bed at 7 in the morning, like nope, 6 in the morning, because I don't do that hours usually. For the first thing is I got up, took my medication in bed, and went, why am I awake this early?
Yeah.
The second, I was just gonna say the next problem, and like this is going back to her question. There is an issue where a lot of people with ADHD have an internal block because there's two things that have happened. Either they have everybody deciding that they're geniuses and that everything they must produce must be perfectly, and that's going to cause a stop. Or the flip side of that, where everybody's decided nothing they do is going to be good enough because their best isn't great. So something happens in the brain where they're like, why try? And
Right.
when you get into the sense of, I want to do this, your brain starts fighting with you. Well, why bother? You have ADHD. You can't do this. Well, it's not going to be perfect because you have ADHD. So why are you trying?
Yeah.
Get rid of the concept of perfect. First of all, most people aren't perfect. Even your most beloved books are not perfect. Like, if you really sit down and look at them, you'll find faults with them in your own way. And also realize a lot of those people are dicks. A lot of people in this world make an assumption that because you're smart or because you're not smart enough or you're not doing enough, that for some reason that lessens your value and lessens the value in art.
Mhm.
That is not true.
Yep.
And if it's just a physical ADHD thing, get up and go for a run and then sit down. And while you're doing a cool down, like start thinking about what you're going to write, and then you can move straight into the chair.
Yeah, I have to do that sometimes too. I medicate with coffee because I can't take regular meds.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I do is I take coffee, and then I will occasionally. My body chemistry is pretty weird. Sometimes I need less coffee. Sometimes I need a lot more coffee. Today was one of the a lot more coffee days. But if I overdrink coffee, I will get to the point of physical hyperactivity more than mental hyperactivity. In which case I will take myself for a walk, and on the walk I will think about, okay, so when I get back to my computer, here's what I'm going to work on. One of the things that Jasmin was talking about was it takes us a while to transition from task to task. I wish that I could link the YouTube video that I am thinking of, but I've looked for it. I cannot find it again.
That's an ADHD thing.
It is an ADHD thing, but it's also I looked for 12 hours and couldn't find it again thing.
Yeah.
So it may have been deleted for all I know.
Yeah.
But somebody 2 years ago had a video out about ADHD, and it had this great graphic of tentacles coming out of a brain for an ADHD person, attaching to whatever we're focusing on at that moment, and then it takes a while for those tentacles to retract back for us. And there's kind of two options. There's you can transition very quickly and your brain will have a bit of a meltdown. That's one of the things that comes with ADHD is emotional dysregulation.
And then you pick a fight with somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cognitive inflexibility is the term. It's like something they study. It's like, why can some people like immediately switch, and other people, if it's not working, the entire brain just goes, well, screw this, fuck all of this, it's not worth it. And it's like, okay,
exactly.
I don't know if we're allowed to curses, my darling.
Sorry.
So the other day I was watching a video. I think that it was Kate Kavanaugh. She was writing about with like someone I don't remember.
We're okay with curses.
Yeah,
okay,
and
cool.
and she said that this writer, I can't remember, she went home and write for a half an hour, and it was like, write for a half an hour.
How?
I need half an hour for just sit down and put everything in context and arrange everything for my brain, like start to thinking and writing. And this person who was, of course, an amazing writer, I can't remember her name because ADD, she come back to her home and she like write a half an hour before start I don't know, preparing dinner or something like that. I'm reading, sorry, some things that is on the chat, And someone that I can find here said something about not being perfect, like the fear of not being perfect or good. And for me, because again, and I say this again because I think that it's important to notice that I'm not an expert writer. I just start to do it a few months ago. What I love about writing, you don't need to do it perfect on the first try.
Oh
That's
no.
what you call the draft. There's
Yes.
people like this person here that I have written the same thing 24 times to do it like how you want it. So
This is
don't be
draft I got
afraid.
tired.
Yeah.
Yes. So
This is draft I got tired and
what
decided to edit it.
an amazing thing that you don't need to do it perfect
Oh no.
at
No.
all at the beginning. And we were I've been talking about this, like taking note for ourselves, like I'm writing this, and how do you call this, the thing to, okay,
Bracket?
whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you say, okay, this is trash. We need
Yep.
to write this better, and what we Andrea need to write then is this feeling or this action, and you can continue.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need to do it perfect at the first time
Oh
at all.
no. Oh
Don't
No,
be
no.
afraid
it's
of the,
like the
I
great
yeah,
thing about writing is, unlike painting or something where it might cost you a lot of money if you screw up, you know, lots of us are using word processors, or we're, writing it by hand where we don't really intend it to be the final draft anyways. We're just, some people prefer writing by hand, whatever makes you happy.
yeah.
Do what
yeah,
it, and then recognize that, like, I mean, I go through it and like so much of it, I'm like, Jesus, Jasmin, why is this so wordy and excessive? And like, I will find
And
paragraphs,
then you're
which I
like, have
remember
you
going,
met me?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
I
I
have
will
the
find
opposite
paragraphs.
problem. I have
Yeah,
the total opposite problem where it's like the first okay, Reaper, the book that I was just showing off. Draft 1. Here is chapter 1. It got turned into chapter 1, 2, 3.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
So
So like
lots of
I
words.
get really wordy.
I actually had a 2-paragraph section in the original chapter 1. That is
Yeah,
chapter 2 now.
yeah, yeah. It's like there's times where I'm just like, I'm going through this and going, what? And like I can like sit there, and while I'm going through it, I can remember me being like, God, I'm a genius. This is great. And then being like, no, what,
Yeah.
Jasmin, past this is trash. And it's like, there is definitely the sides of being a writer where it can be very egotistical, and then also whatever the
We need
opposite of,
that though.
yeah,
Like we
if I
Yeah.
didn't
need
have that level.
that pump of like
Yeah.
I am God. Like
Yes.
that is something that needs to if that isn't happening to you, I'm sorry, but try it.
Yeah,
Just
it feels
just
good.
try tapping into that, because
Yeah.
you're going to need to open up like happy feelings in order for you to start like getting words
Mhm.
on papers.
I'm going to talk about this in another panel in a couple of hours, but
Your worst book.
our worst pieces, yes, I
Mhm.
will be doing that particular panel, and I will be talking about, I'm not sure if I'm going to be talking about Guardian, the one that's coming out, or AuthorGoddess, the one that gives me migraines every time I look at it.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's interesting. And I think, like, part of it is you usually see people finish drafts, not their first drafts. And it's really important to remember that, even like, no matter what type of brain you were born with, we all are learning as we go. Because like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
art is subjective, and like, yes, we can sit here and teach you things, and you can go to professionals who can teach you other things. You still got to learn it by doing it, because like, it's not something you
Yeah.
can just osmosis and then make a perfect book. That's not how it works. You
And
are not supposed to be on that.
it's really hard to apprentice as a writer as well. It's
Yeah.
hard to like learn from a master, because a lot of times either the master is the person that you want to learn from is like 50 million miles away, and kind of
sure,
you can't like talk to them, or they're dead. So It's even harder to get in contact with them.
Yeah, just get your Ouija board out.
Unless you have a very, very accurate Ouija board, because spirits
Yeah.
tricksy, baby. But it's hard to be an apprentice writer. A lot of the times it is trial and error upon you, and trial and error with someone who has ADHD is a lot to freaking handle.
Yeah, a
It's
lot of
a
people will
lot
get into
for
this
us.
whole concept of like, you have to get used to rejection. You have to have a thick skin. There is an aspect of that, yes, because you're going to have people who don't like your writing, regardless of what
yeah.
you're writing. Like, just there's some people who are going to be dicks about it. If you're going to go into traditional publishing, you aren't going to get everybody being like, "Oh my God, you're the best writer ever."
Exactly.
You don't actually want that, because that is not good. You want to have actual readers who love your work and not just everybody, because that doesn't make any sense.
I have a wife who is the Russian judge of my writing. Like, she will go through it and go, "I understand what you're going through here, and I understand what you're trying to say, but cut back down on the words and put more actions in it." And
Yeah,
it's really harsh. It's harsh to be like, "What do you mean you don't like it?"
Yeah.
But you want to make out with them anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to
it's
make out with my alpha reader. My alpha reader is my mother-in-law. She's wonderful. She
yeah,
gives
that
me
would be
wonderful
weird.
feedback, but yeah, that would be so weird.
I was like, I do think that like learning to be okay with rejection, like in the sense of you are allowed to be hurt and upset and take moments away from it and like be like, I'm terrible and I shouldn't write, but like cut that pity party to a certain amount of time and then get back to it. Like
Yeah.
you are allowed to have a hard time with somebody, especially if they're really mean, because some people are dicks. And like it can be really hurtful. And sometimes you just get a form letter and it sort of sucks, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
The point of trying to be good with rejection is not getting to the point where you just kind of chuck it off. It's not a big deal. It's learning to move past it. You can be hurt by it, you just don't be stopped by it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to be rejected, first you need to sit down and write something to be
You
rejected.
need to have something written.
You want
if you
to
get
learn
to the
how
point-
to be rejected? Like first you need to write something.
Yeah.
Like don't we used to like question everything that we do. Like just sit down and write something. For me, it was really good to start learning because this thing of the we don't know how to start writing. So I start reading books about writing. So that can give me
I
the
can't
kickoff.
do that.
You know, it doesn't. It's not about that I'm going to follow each step of the save the cat method, of the snowflake method, whatever.
Yeah.
Is to, for me, the hard thing was to like, okay, I want to write. Amazing. How do I start? Like,
yeah.
what, where, how, when?
Also, it's kind of nice to just have text like be there with you while you're on this journey to get into the mindset of writing stuff down. It's just good to have a craft book to be like blah 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 blah. It's you don't even have to internalize it. It's just the fact that it's there and it's talking about writing that pumps me up personally.
And I think like it's really okay to like disagree with craft books. There's a lot of craft books that are like,
oh yeah, some of them are
this
terrible.
is stupid. Why are you doing this? But it's like I think sometimes knowing what you don't like is just as important as knowing what you do like. Because being like, this is nonsense means like it doesn't work for you. Like I don't outline, I'm a pantser, but I do what I call story sketching, where I just kind of like come up with scenes over here and over there and over there, and like not all of them are going to end up in the books, but ones they tell me who my characters are. They also help me figure out what the basic line is, and it's a very rough sketch of the book, and then I actually write it. But it's like I wouldn't call it outlining, though some people like quibble with that, but it's like it reminds me of people who draw. If you see sketches, they very rarely look like the end product, but they're really important to the drawing method.
Yeah, I do something very similar. I will write short stories if I'm trying to figure out who somebody is. I will write a short story about that character, and maybe their interaction with another character. Sort of depends.
Yeah.
And then I will write an outline. If I'm planning a book, I will write an outline, and then I will ignore the outline and write the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, it's like, I've tried to do outlining methods before where you get really strict. And I'm like, I have my own type of strictness where, like, with my first draft, I keep chapters to a certain word length and scenes to a certain word length unless I know they have to be longer. Because I'll just go on and on and on. And that means that when I come back, if I go, this needs to be longer, it legitimately needs to be longer. Like, I'm not, sitting there and cutting out 22 pages worth of the weird barber adventure I sent one of my barbers on one time. Quick question for everybody. Are we supposed to wrap up at 11? At the hour?
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be wrapping up about right now, but
I read that we can pass a few minutes because we
Okay.
start later.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure because we're ADHD
Yes,
and we'll just keep
we
going.
have
yeah,
15
we will
minutes
literally
extra.
just
Yeah.
keep this conversation going.
Yeah, like we'll just be here for the next 12 hours and everybody will know all of our dirty secrets.
Well, I
Yeah.
won't. I have another panel at in an hour. I have another panel.
Okay. No,
We'll
but
be
we
made
have
aware
15
that
more
it's
minutes.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Can I make a suggestion of, if you are a writer and you're having a hard time doing things, get invested in stickers? I know it sounds weird, but like 95% of my journaling is I get to put a sticker in when I get to certain points and decorate the pages. And like, I don't know, it reminds me of the kid who never got stickers in school.
Right.
So I get to have all the stickers.
I don't personally go for stickers, but I do go for other words.
Yeah.
So stickers works for you. What works
Yeah.
really well for me is I have written such and such amount of words this past week. I get
Yeah.
to have a vegetable plate for dinner.
Yeah,
Now
I think
that doesn't
rewards,
sound appealing to most people, but I like vegetables.
if you like vegetables, I like whatever. I do think be careful about rewarding yourself with sweets too often.
I don't do that. I don't reward myself with treats because I'm gonna go overboard and like
Yeah, you're gonna be like,
that's like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
shaky
I set
territory for
myself.
Sherry.
I set myself. First of all, I try to do healthy goals because when I first started doing rewards, it was a Snickers bar every time I hit 1,000 words.
that
There's a
doesn't work out
reason I
very
am
fast.
overweight.
I know with me, one of the things I've done is I have 2 different sets of rewards. So stickers are you wrote. It doesn't matter if I wrote 12 words or if I wrote 12,000. I wrote. I get a sticker.
Yeah.
I have bigger rewards, and like there are different rewards depending on when I went do things. So like when I'm working on my first draft where I'm just trying to get everything down, it's about word count. When I start doing semi-revision, it starts changing like what point am I at? Like where am I doing this? How much work have I done? And so like I have physical responses, and sometimes they're like, I have very expensive books that I want to buy. It is very hard for me to justify buying a $92 book.
Yeah.
But if I've written 150,000 words, well, $92 isn't that big of a deal. And so like I have kind of my own things. Now I am impulsive and will sometimes buy my rewards before I deserve them. But like I try.
Yeah.
So for me, sorry.
Show
Thing
it.
that I
Show
bought. Yes,
it.
I have to show it.
Oh, awesome! I have one of those too. You're
For me, the Alpha Smart. This is an Alpha Smart.
I
This
have one too.
was sold in the US and Canada, I think, on 2000, early 2000, and it's a free, distraction-free tool, so you can write wherever you want, and then you plug into your computer and you transcribe everything that you wrote. And for me, that was amazing. So to can unplug myself of the computer, where you have YouTube and other Twitch
Oh, the
channels and movies
distractions.
and Netflix, and because
yeah,
I'm a huge TV watcher, like I have Netflix, I have Amazon Prime, I have Disney Plus, and probably we're going to have HBO because we don't have cable at home. I mean, we are huge movie nerds here. So that for me was a really huge helper. And on the chat, someone is talking about Solo Adrian 02 has talking about what about time sprint to help you chunk your writing.
Yeah,
do
For
that.
I do that.
me,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, time sprint it's the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do
Because
the
I
Pomodoro.
feel related with the one that I'm watching. We can talk about writing, and I can um, hear someone else writing, and then you know have this time of focus. Now I'm picky about what sprints I
Yeah.
go into. Like I don't like sprints that are too short. Like 10 minutes for me doesn't work.
Yeah. I'm
20,
the same way.
25, 30 minutes it works. I
Mhm.
don't like sprints that have their mic in silence because I need some
I
kind
need
of
to hear the
noise.
Some
clicky
kind of
clacky
noise.
noise,
The
please.
clicky clacky noise and
More of the clicky
comments of
clack.
Cherry on their sprints are really amazing.
Oh my god.
Um,
Sometimes I just talk to my characters in the middle of a sprint and like people would be like, "Why are you so mad?" though?"
I talk to past me because
Um,
right now I'm in revision. So I talk to past me and go, "Oh, come on, Eli of 20 whatever. What were you thinking when you wrote this?"
yeah, when I hand edit, I put like, what the fuck? Why are we doing this? What is wrong with you? Why did you think this was great? Like, if you go through it, you'd think I'd have a serious self-hate problem. It's like, no, just for that specific me that was writing this.
Yeah, that
Slight
specific me
tangent.
had a problem.
That
What I
specific me.
do for rewards, I don't really have a lot of like physical like possession rewards because that's not how I roll. But what I do give myself a chance to do is I will like my reward for getting words done, my reward for doing anything is I go to my wife and then like rant at her about how amazing I am.
Love that.
It's just me being like self-affirming in the direction of my wife, and my wife's like,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of work, baby, but you do you.
Yeah, poor Mr. Twinkle. Mr. Twinkle is my spouse. We used to have a long commute to and from work because we
Mhm,
worked at the same place. He still works
mhm.
there. We're not really sure. But while we had the long commute from Pasadena to Calabasas on the
Oh
way
my
to work,
god.
on the way to work, I was asleep. First of all, on the way home, I was awake. I had had my coffee and I was thinking about writing. So I would rant at him the entire way from Calabasas back to Pasadena
I've
about
had to
I'm
drive
working
that.
on this story and blah 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 blah. And by the time
So
we get home, he's like, "Please shut
yeah,
up."
I have what I call my skull friends. Now, this is a very specific intern group, so I'm going to explain it. You know how Sherlock talks to a skull to figure things out because he thinks everybody else is
sure.
stupid? That's what I do with my friends. For like, I don't need you to actually engage with this. I just need to talk with somebody about this. So you can like blank out, and like I have friends who I know will let me do that. And sometimes they are actually interested in it. There are others that I'm not sure about, but they love me regardless. Um,
I
Yeah,
love
I do think I do think time sprints are useful. It's going to depend on who you are. I don't do short sprints really well. I do long ones. I like to do the Pomodoro effect where it's like you do this many minutes on and this many minutes off and this many minutes on, partially so I remember to go to the bathroom because hyperfocus is the other side of
hey,
ADHD
Yeah.
that we have not touched on. Be very
at
careful
all.
of that.
We have
It can
5
make,
minutes that we rate coffee quills.
Okay.
yeah.
Hey.
Thank you,
So
Laan. Thank you, Laan, for letting us know because we will hopefully
Keep going.
keep. Yeah.
yes,
Okay. So
usually.
hyperfocus is how I wrote 3 books.
Yeah.
Writing is one of my hyperfocuses.
Yeah, it's
If I
mine
can
too.
get into a good flow, I will just keep going and going and going. I'm the Energizer Bunny. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, so I will
um,
do that too, where it's like 16 hours later, I haven't eaten, I haven't drinking, I haven't gone to the bathroom. I do think hyperfocus can be very useful. If you are prone to hyperfocusing, do not sit there and be like, I have this great tool. It is incredibly bad for your health. So
yeah,
if you have someone you live with, make sure that they check on you and be like, hey, maybe you should eat something. It's okay. It's like I have my snacks where it's like they're meal foods that I can prepare in under 5 minutes. So if I'm in one of those headspace, I'm still eating because if it takes me longer than 5 minutes, I am not eating. And then
yeah.
making sure that
I don't know
while
if it
prepared,
happened, but my cat somehow knows to check on me every 3 hours to be like,
Aw.
hello,
Yay.
pay attention to me. I am
Yeah.
Anatole. And then like that's what breaks me out of it, because when I'm locked down into like hyper focus world, nothing else exists. But
Yeah,
my
it's like
I
a
have a
will like
lot
bomb
of
show
could
up.
go off. Yeah,
For
it's like
me,
I
it's oh, sorry.
it's like yeah, it's like a bomb could go off. I would have no idea because like
Absolutely.
I live in a place that like we detonate explosives for avalanche control quite regularly, and I have
Okay.
no idea it's happening
Mhm.
because that's how much I will hyper focus. So I'm not kidding when I say you could probably drop a bomb on me and I'd have no idea.
I have
But
worse.
yeah,
I have hyper focused into the middle of a migraine, and I
yeah,
break
Oh,
out of the hyper
that's not
focus and
nice.
go,
So
oh, oh.
we need
yeah.
to
Yeah, I
wrap
Yeah,
kind
up,
we
of
need to
that's
start
guys.
where I was.
wrapping up.
Yeah. But
Thank you
anyway,
guys so
My
much.
only thing that I want to tell you, everyone, if you are hyper focused or you're frustrated or whatever, and this is really, I'm not the person to tell you this, but you need to sleep. I
Yeah,
hate sleeping. I
I'm
have
horrible at
problems with
sleep.
sleeping, but you need to sleep. Your brain is not going to work
You
better
better watch this
because
VOD and listen to
you need.
yourself saying
Yes, I
that,
know, I know, I
Andrea.
know.
Yeah.
With 4 hours
Um.
and hydrate. Like every
yeah,
Oh
time that
yeah.
someone uh, do the hydrate thing, you drink water and sleep because your brain is not going to work better if you don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Um.
I think that we need to go now.
Yes.
thank you.
Let's do some quick. This is me. Hi. Um. So I'm EliKwake. I am EliKwake on Twitch. You can find me at EliKwake.com.
I'm 101 Mystic on Twitter and occasionally in Coffee Quills as a mod, so I'll probably go hang out with her, them, sorry. And yeah, thanks. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for hanging out and letting me scream dragons into your ear. My name is Sherry. I stream on Twitch. They, them. And I love you. Your hair looks really good today.
I'm the Andrea Donoso. I'm usually the Andrea Donoso everywhere. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that these tips and tricks had helped you. If you want to have contact with us, I think that we can leave our then our social networks here, or you can find us on the CONduit Discord channel.
Yep.
Yes. And I'm really good at ADHD chat, so if you have questions, I'm open.
Mhm.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. Anytime you want.
This is a holdover, but I have to like you first.
Yeah, yeah. I know I know what you're talking about. That's from the Trans and Envy panel really, really early this morning.
We are writing to coffee.
Yay, coffee!
Yay!
Coffee!
I don't remember what they're hosting next.
I don't know.
It might be Chill and Chat.
Is coffee online?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. It is online. This thing. Let me know.
It's something forgot.
Well, there it is.
Well, forgetting sounds like another ADHD
Consent
thing.
in writing.
We're
Consent
done.
in writing.
Yeah. Consent and writing. Oh, consent and writing. I don't want to catch that, but I have to be somewhere in 20 minutes.
Problems. You did
Yeah,
this to yourself, Eli.
I did. I'm gonna catch all the VODs.
Yes.
Although you should have seen me yesterday. Oh, I was tired, and then I only had a 2-hour nap. Anyway, good to have you all today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you very much.
Drink coffee for coffee.
Yes. And we've been rated.
That was fun.
Awesome.
That was a
Thank you
lot of.
guys.
We went on
awesome.
so many tangents.